Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I am an I, a very big I, capital I, and I'm going to stand here behind the desk and refer to my notes as often as I need to. There you go. Before we get into talking about our 4 Ps and how we use those topics to build our employee development programs, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background about our city and about our organisation. And I'm doing this because I want to give you a little bit of the context of sort of who we are and what we do, because I think in the end it will actually enhance your understanding of why we tailor our staff development programs, our employee development programs the way we do. And then Carlie will go into more detail about the specifics of those programs for you. So a little bit about the city. For those of you who don't know where Lake Macquarie is, and it's probably most of you in the room, we're not generally well known outside of Lake Macquarie, actually.
New South Wales, at least.
Oh, maybe. We're not Port Macquarie. That's a very famous saying for us. We're about 90 minutes drive north of Sydney CBD. We've got a population of about 204,000 people, and our local government area is about 750 so square kilometres, with a lake that is twice the size of Sydney Harbour, right smack in the middle of our city. So literally we've got a lake and 95, in fact probably more than 95, smallish communities that all live around the lake that constitutes a city. So topographically we are not your standard high density or even medium density one central cohesive community. We're a collective of much smaller communities all centred around this one large common feature. Economically, our city has an annual output of around $17.8 billion. Manufacturing activities are about 4.2 billion of that, which is about 24% of our city's annual economic output. And mining and power generation contribute another 12% to that. We've got over 13,000 small businesses operating in the city and 13,000 businesses operating in the city, but over 90% of those are classified as small, so under 20 employees. And I don't know the statistic, but a huge proportion of those businesses will be absolutely directly related to the mining and the power generation industries that are in our city. When you think of those two industries, they're two industries more than many others that are already changing, but are going to change and evolve very rapidly in the next 10 years. Which means, of course, that our city's economy is also going to have to change and be very agile and very able to transition and evolve as these industries require it of the city, of the businesses that operate in the city. And I know you're all going, well, why is that relevant to people development? And what a strange connection she's trying to make. But if you think about it as our role in local government, if our city is facing uncertainty and needs to be ready to transition quickly and adapt readily, so do we as the organisation or the local government. And of course, if we're talking about the organisation, we're talking about our people. So our people need to be ready and able and willing to adapt and change. So a little bit about the organisation. We've got over 1,100 employees. We've got an FTE of about 960 or so. There's all sorts of stats there about our purchasing, our turnover, our budget. Proudly, we've got a relatively high number of our workforce working in flexible arrangements. It's one of the lovely things about a larger local government area is the flexibility and the opportunities we can offer to our employees. But we've also got a dedicated education to employment programme where we've currently got 3% of our workforce in some form of traineeship or apprenticeship. We've got a stretch target, definitely a stretch, but we've got a stretch target of getting that to 10%. Don't know that we'll ever get there, but we're certainly not going to reduce the target because we don't think we'll achieve it. We'll just keep working. We'll just keep working towards it. So I mentioned the topography of the city earlier and this idea of lots of smaller communities scattered around the lake. And I think it's probably born out of the topography, but we for many years have taken an approach that our primary purpose as the local government organisation is ultimately to improve the quality of life for our residents and visitors, but that we don't need to and we shouldn't look to be the person or the organisation that delivers all of the services. In fact, we try and avoid being the organisation that delivers the services in a lot of cases. Instead, we use what's called an asset-based community development model, and we look to facilitate the community to deliver the services on their own behalf. We also look to them to solve the complex problems with us. So we don't go out there and say, we've got this problem, we think it's our problem, this is what we're going to do about it. We take the problem to the community and seek their input. We use that at all sorts of levels. We use it very locally, where the local community run their own facilities, they run their sports facilities, they run their tennis courts. We get involved to assist, but we don't get involved in the running of those facilities. It's quite unique for a local government setup. And even with bigger problems, when we've been through special rate variations, we are one of the communities that will be more affected than any other if we suffer from climate change and sea level rise. And we've taken those problems to our community and said, help us, tell us how you want us to help you solve these problems and be ready to address these challenges. This slide shows the city's vision. It's the city's vision, it's not the organisation's vision. We've worked over the last 18 months with workshops, community reference panels, focus groups, number of online engagements to develop a vision for the city that is the residents of the city's vision, the people who live and work in the city. We had over 78,000 individual online interactions with us, feeding into, yes, we like it, no, we don't like it, you're on track, before we got to the point where we said, this is the city's vision. So again, there's that question about why does having a city vision matter to employee development activities? Well, it matters because if we take this community-driven approach to our service delivery and this sort of participative decision-making approach to the way we work with our community, it's a very different set of skills to those that you would find in a traditional local government or a compliance-driven local government organisation that's about lodge an application, get an approval, make sure it's built correctly, frame of mind. And because we're taking this much very different, I don't know if it's newer, I think it's newer, this different approach to our role as local government, we've also got to make sure that our employees have got a different set of skills than those traditional compliance type skills. We've really got to be talking about our employees understanding communication styles, partnerships, motivations, what motivates people, which falls exactly into this notion of our 3 Ps. We are a big organisation, we do lots of things, so we do have an internal vision and a set of internal values, exactly as you would expect. This vision was designed, I'll let you read it, I'm not going to read it out. This vision was designed to energise a shift in our organisation away from this idea that when we were driving change and we were driving efficiencies and improvements, all of the drive for those improvements was about making our lives easier, making it more efficient for us to process a payment, making it more efficient for us to process payroll. We didn't take a perspective of, well, what does that mean to the customer outside? And often some of those efficiency gains that we put in place for us actually made it even harder or more complex or more obtuse in some cases for the community to interact with us. So we took a complete shift this time last year, middle of last year, to say, no, actually, all of our improvement from here on will be about improving the experience that we have with our customer. We've currently got 7 values, but we're going through, it's a lot, I know we've had them for a while, we're local government. But we're going through a process just now, in fact, we've almost finished it, and we've been working right across the organisation. We'll end up, I think, with possibly 2 or 3. So that was the idea of giving you some context. To understand this concept, we talk about our 4 Ps, performance, people, partnerships, and personality. I'm just going to talk really quickly about performance. We can graph, and I will show you in a minute, all sorts of improvement in our performance over the last 10 years while we've been focusing on these other aspects of employee development. And we're pretty proud of the metrics, and we collect data and we measure lots of it, and it's great. It tells us where we are. It's the backbone of us knowing when to change and adapt our practices or do things differently. But I just do want to, I guess, boast one little bit. Earlier this year, Lake Macquarie City Council was featured in a global publication. It's a publication called 100% Human at Work, the Experiments Collection, and it's published by a group called Virgin's Unite B team. If you haven't heard of the document, it's definitely worth a look. It's a collection of case studies. It looks worldwide at 30 workplaces each year, and it showcases initiatives that those workplaces have to promote equity, respect, growth and inclusion inside their workplaces. The 2017 collection's got all sorts of major companies in there. Atlassian's recognised, Red Bull is recognised, H&M Group is recognised, and Lake Macquarie City Council is recognised. So we're pretty proud of ourselves. And one more, and then I will show you the data. Most recently, we've also been recognised by an organisation called IAP2. That's the Australian and International Organisation for Public Participation. It's an organisation that talks about this idea of letting the community participate in the decisions affecting the community and getting away from this top-down government approach. We were recognised earlier this year as the Australian Organisation of the Year and the International Organisation of the Year. And in particular, the recognition was about the fact that we've built a culture that is about shared leadership and shared decision-making across our city. So I think those are is the evidence that our processes are working. Let me very quickly show you that we can track our performance over the years. The green line shows you improvements in resident satisfaction. It looks like there's a really dramatic dip and you go, oh my goodness, what happened in 2003? Until you look at the graph, the axis at the side, and actually it only went down by about 3 or 4%, so it wasn't quite as dramatic as it looks. But we're pretty proud of the fact that in 2016 we got to 94% resident satisfaction in our city. The red line shows you our employee engagement scores. We've been recording these for 10 years. We do it every 2 years, and we've now got 10 years worth of data that we can plot, and you can see this very steady increase. Interestingly, the last survey, we've got really high employee engagement, but also really high role clarity. So I've got a huge workforce who not only are engaged and want to be there and want to work, but they also actually know what's required of them and what needs to be done, and how what they do every day really leads to that bigger picture and that bigger vision, which for me as CEO is fantastic. You couldn't ask for a better place to take the workforce and say, let's keep going in that direction. The blue lines are our achievement against what we call our operational plan. Every year we publish a contract to our community. This is what we will deliver, and that's the percentage achievement. Last year we achieved 95% of the plan that we told the community we were going to deliver. So again, we're pretty confident that all of the work we're putting into developing our people is actually showing us results in terms of our performance. And the notes beneath just simply has really key activities that we did in each year that we can draw a very clear line that said when we undertook our EA enterprise bargaining process, our employee engagement scores immediately shot up. So we can make really tangible connections between our activities and the employee engagement and the resident satisfaction scores. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Carlie, who will tell you more in detail about how we work on people, personality and partnerships.
Thank you, Morven. Thanks. I'm mindful that we are at an MBTI conference. I'm an ENTP. I will try to stick to the script. It will probably be very hard. I'll hold it in my hand, at least I'll feel that I have something to guide me along. I'll probably go off track. That's what I do. As Morven mentioned, the 4 Ps are very, very much critical for how we run our business as such. As a local government organisation, it's critical that we don't just work with the community, but we work within the community as well. And Morven's very much articulated that as far as how important it is for our shareholders, who are our ratepayers, our community members and our employees, of which about 80% actually live within our community, how important our performance is to actually show that we're giving them bang for their buck, value for money in the services and how we deliver those. One of the key ways that we do that, and Morven has already started to talk about this, is through partnerships. So we very much have a focus on partnerships with our community, developing those partnerships to create reference groups, to have buy-in, to create community values. But we also really work very hard on developing partnerships with our staff. Move along. Some of the areas where we've really been able to work together with our staff, as mentioned in Cameron's introduction earlier, was our enterprise agreement in 2014 and the renegotiation of that in 2017. It's a great example of where we went to staff and to unions and to our organisation and actually said, how can we find a way to work together to get an outcome that's beneficial for everyone, but that also fits within the capacity of the organisation to deliver those outcomes. So what we did, we very much focused on not just the capacity of the organisation, but some of the innovative ways and outcomes that we could actually get for our staff to improve their wellbeing and flexibility and the opportunities that they have within our organisation. So we had a number of working groups that actually worked on specific components of the enterprise agreement to get a really good outcome, and some really innovative schemes and entitlements for our staff as well. So we have a sick leave pool sharing scheme and so forth that we actually developed based on what the staff had identified in those working groups. We also undertook quite a significant program of service and business process reviews over the last about 8 or 9 years. They've been very much driven by collaborative structures within our staffing, people working in project teams, working to their strengths, working very closely on solving organisational issues and driving that change process and that continuous improvement program throughout the organisation. So of 1,100 or so staff, we've had about 200 of our staff actually be part of those project teams, and now, as so often happens in organisations, that's just part of business as usual. We don't talk about reviews and process reviews. It's just part of our culture of continuous improvement and really trying to work to be a very customer-centric organisation. Lake Macquarie was part of the discussions for amalgamation in the New South Wales local government environment a couple of years ago. We were actually targeted to amalgamate with one of our northern neighbours. In response to that, we actually mobilised our workforce. We got everyone engaged. We asked people to work to their strengths and to be part of project teams to actually build a case to say that Lake Macquarie actually was fit for the future and should be able to stand alone as part of the amalgamation process. So happily, that focus of partnerships and rallying the troops and getting people to work together on projects and have a common drive and common engagement and common interest, common enemy, may I say, actually allowed us to be determined as fit for the future, which means that we stand alone, which is great. We have a significant program of leadership development. I will go into a little bit more detail once we actually start talking about P3, which is personality, which I'm sure is what you actually want to hear about today, given the subject of today's conference. What we've done though in the partnership, with partnerships in leadership development, is we've actually we've utilised our leadership development and we've shared that with the sector. So we have very close ties with 2 other councils in New South Wales where we've shared our leadership experience, our leadership journey, and we actually have invited them to be part of our leadership development program, which utilises MBTI and EQI as part of that. So we're very much about creating those partnerships within the sector and not just with our own staff as well, and that's been really well received over the period. As a result of being determined fit for the future, we actually put together our one team concept, which built further on that business as usual aspect of our process and service reviews in the past. So building capacity of our staff to undertake process mapping, journey mapping, taking a walk in the shoes of our customers, working very closely to improve our processes, improve our programs, our reviews, and improve our performance as part of that. So that's become a business as usual area as well. In a sense, it's a rolling program that we've committed to. We've had, I think, about 100 of our staff actually be involved in that. That's only been in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, but we've got a fairly broad remit of what we look at as part of that program. We're looking at people and culture, we're looking at our customer focus, we're looking at technology, we're looking at finance, we're looking at our service delivery, a whole multitude of facets of our business that really drive our performance. So that partnership's very important. And Morven's already spoken very much about the community partnerships, our working closely, building the ability of our staff to be engaged and embedded in the community to actually get that community partnership and clear vision and focus in place so that we know where we're heading, we know what we need to do to perform, and our community is clear about the outcomes that they can expect from us. So, personality, the fun bit. This is what we're all here for. I love it. So I'll try very hard to stand in the one spot for as much as I can. Lake Macquarie's leadership program primarily is focused on combining both emotional intelligence and the MBTI instrument. So we found for a number of years we'd actually been working with EI as the premise of leadership development for our existing and our emerging leaders, our aspiring leaders as well. We'd been going okay with that, but we found once we actually made some contact with Martin and the CPP team that there was actually a really good synergy between the two instruments, and we felt that for our organisation we would actually get a really great outcome by building people's capacity and ability to be aware of their emotional intelligence and how that impacts on their interactions, how that impacts on their dealings with their staff, how that impacts in the workplace, as well as combining the broader aspect of MBTI, which covers all of those facets. There's quite a number of crossovers that we have as far as decision making, building teams, influencing, managing conflict and so forth. So we actually put a program together that combined both of those instruments. We have been doing the program which we ourselves call the Lake Macquarie Challenge. It's not meant to be too smart, it's pretty much that. It's a challenge for people to actually build their own skills, to look at their self-development, to understand their self, their teams, their personalities, their style, how they interact, how they communicate, how they manage change, how they make decisions, and how they influence and work together with other people, whether that's their peers, whether that's with project teams, whether that's with their own staff. So with the emotional intelligence side, we actually get our staff to do the EQ I360. We generally have somewhere between sort of 5 to 10 people that undertake that, where the 360 component is really important. So I don't know how many people have experience with the EQI instrument, but they're asked to nominate people that work as peers, family, friends, but also their direct managers. So they get a really broad spectrum of feedback as part of the EQI assessment. They have an individual debrief that actually goes through some of the opportunities and areas for improvement, and they can take that away, and this is very much driven about people's own development. It's not about necessarily the organisation developing them and giving them extra opportunities. It's about them understanding self and taking that away and actually being able to utilise that understanding and that awareness in the workplace and in their interactions. So that's the first component. The second component is the MBTI. We run through a fairly interactive and fun workshop as part of the MBTI. We sit down and we have so much fun. Morven and the executive team come along in the morning, and they never fail to be amazed at some of the comments and discussions that happen once you start putting the E's on one side and the I's on the other, and the N's and the S's and the T's and the F's. It's really fantastic to see how that breakdown happens, and I introduce that session every time, and I sit there and I say, this will be mind-blowing. You will get so many aha moments out of this, and I've had the aha moments, and you see the light bulbs, you see the aha moments, and you see the people saying, oh, I completely understand why my wife or my husband is like that. Or now I know why when I say to that person, me as an E, blah, 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 they go, got nothing. So I understand it, they understand it. It's really great to see the takeaways that actually happen as part of that. So we work very closely with CPP as part of that program. We've had over 200 of our staff go through. It's the 10th year that we've actually done the program this year, so it's really fantastic. We've got something like an 87% retention rate of people that have been in the program. There's a fantastic understanding of personality types, communication styles, team building skills, leadership, what that all means as a whole across the organisation, and that's reflected in some of our engagement scores. So Morven just showed you the single engagement score, but our leadership scores, our role clarity, our understanding of discussions, our supervisor trust, our working with others, working in teams and so forth is really, it's really engaging and really important. It's really great across the organisation. So that is our personality, but at the end of the day, it's really about our people. So Sue from Australia Post started her speech with people at the front end and performance at the other end. We've just flipped that and gone the other way. People really are our greatest asset. Without the people and the skills and the development and for the commitment to engagement, partnership and collaboration, we wouldn't be where we are today. And that's very much been engendered through these types of programs that we have in place. It's about building people's capacity to work in project teams. It's about, we've heard it all today, so many times, resilience, agility, being able to deal with disruption and uncertainty, being able to create for us project teams that have discrete objectives, project teams that have unclear objectives, and people being able to actually develop and work together with people outside of their own team. It's a great collaborative structure that we have, and we really want to build that as we keep moving forward, and this is one of the ways with our people that we actually can achieve that. We get fantastic feedback every year from the people that are part of the program. So many of them have actually moved on to higher level positions in the organisation or outside of the organisation, taken on secondments and really stepped outside of their comfort zone as part of building that resilience and that understanding of being collaborative and working for the broader good. So I haven't got any fancy videos, because that went well for the last one. So I guess just to give you some context about some of the things that people say about our program, which we do call the Lake Macquarie Challenge. Interesting, thought-provoking, life-changing, discoveries. So I like this, the second one about I've spent a lot of time on my skills and my qualifications, but this program has really helped me understand myself, styles, people, and throwing yourself in and making it pay off. One of the most important parts of it is, and I guess I say at the start of every time that we do our Lake Macquarie Challenge, is that if nothing else, you learn a little bit about yourself and you make a whole heap of new friends. And that networking and collaboration is a really important skill that we've been able to develop as part of the program as well. Getting people to be able to network and understand different personalities and work out how to communicate in the right ways and in productive ways and work together for the common good, which is the performance. So the 4 Ps, performance, people, personality and partnerships. For us, they are really critical. It's allowed us to get where we are today. It's allowed us to have an engaged, skilled, proactive, collaborative, innovative workforce. It's allowed us to create those partnerships with the community. It's allowed us to develop the city and to see the future development of the city, to work together, to shape where we're heading, and for everyone to actually be part of that vision and contribute to that vision. So Morven mentioned role clarity and so forth, but that's about people having a common understanding of where they're heading and understanding how they contribute to that broader vision. So really for the benefit of our community, and we do talk a lot about performance being about the community, but the community benefits as a whole, we benefit as a whole as an organisation from being able to pull those 4 Ps together. So that's where we are today.